Welcome back to another episode of Followers of the Way. I'm your host, Jeremiah. In today's episode, we're going to talk about who taught you that you have to earn what the Father has freely given you. You see, a lot of people don't understand there's two sets of minds, a conditional mind and a free mind. So at the end of this episode, we're going to do the mind test. Are we operating from a conditional mindset or are we operating from a free mind? So stay tuned and then you will figure out what mind frame you are operating in. So definitely hit that subscribe button, the like button, and definitely that share button. We must work together as a body of believers to get the truth out. And if you like me and you got any questions or concerns about what you hear, take a look at the descriptions. I do leave my email, so feel free to email me. You have any questions, concerns of why I teach what I teach, why I believe what I believe. So we are called followers of the way, simply because we are called to follow Yahusha. And everything you hear on this channel come by way of revelation, simply because Yahuwah is the revelation. Now, I want you to do an exercise with me. Let us pray. This is going to be the prayer. Father, open up the windows of heaven and pour me out a blessing I don't have enough room to receive in my life. This day, this moment, this hour, this second, in the name of Yahusha. Now, if you prayed that prayer, how do you feel right now? Do you believe that that is something the Father is definitely going to do in your life? Or do you believe, I'm uncertain? And if you are uncertain, why? I want you to hold that thought because it's going to matter later on when we do the test. Are you operating from a conditional mind set or are you operating from a free mindset? And once you understand what mindset you are operating on, it'll help you understand more and more about the Father, what is yours, and who you are. All right. So before we get there, let's do some discovery. Let's go back to teachers. So see, in life, we got teachers. We got many teachers. But I want you to focus on two teachers, the teacher of the conditional mind and the teacher of the free mind. These are the two teachers I want you to focus on. All right. Here's the teacher of the conditional mind. Let's start there. See, we've been raised and we've been taught something that is very dangerous, right? So we've been taught that in order to get something, we must first do something. Well, that makes sense. It really does. We've been taught that, well, if I do bad, then I should get bad. We've been taught if I fail, it's because I didn't try hard enough. We've been taught I don't get peace in my life because I'm doing something wrong. We all heard of karma before, right? Okay. So far, this makes sense to me. There's some truth. If you do bad, you get bad. You do good, you get good, right? If you work hard, you get the reward. There's a lot of truth in that. But a lot of us base that on the way we think. See, and that's the teacher I want you to focus on. None of us was born into this world with that type of thinking. You see, as we grew up, we were conditioned by repetition to think you do bad, you get bad. You do good, you get good. It's karma. You work hard, you get the prize, you get the reward. We've been conditioned because we heard it over 1,000 times in our lives or more. So now we are conditioned. Now we believe that. And because we believe that, we operate that way. We think that way. We receive that way. We give that way based on conditions. And that's what the conditional teacher tells us. Now, here's the problem. When you have that conditional teacher telling you that, and now you are born again and you come to the Father with that conditional thinking, that's where things become sticky. You see, when you come to the Father that way, you begin to look at the Father as your employee. Jeremiah, what do you mean, my employee? Okay. When we go to work, we've been conditioned to believe in its truth. You work 40 hours, you get paid for 40 hours. We've been conditioned by repetition to believe that. And it's true. Now, when we go to the Father and we are praying, Father, open up the windows of heaven and pour me out a blessing I don't have enough room to receive in my life this day, this hour, this second, in the name of Yahusha. And I believe you're going to do that, Father, because I pay my tithes, which is not biblical. I pray, I read the Bible, I fast, I go to church. I'm nice to people. So he's going to do it. Why? Because I pray, because I fast. You see your mindset? Your mindset is going off the first teacher, the conditional teacher, that is telling you, you got to do something in order to get something. Now, let's reverse it. What if you wasn't doing praying and fasting and everything else, and you, Father, open up the windows of heaven? You would feel as though the Father won't do it. Why? You feel the Father won't do it. You didn't do enough. So how dare you ask him? You didn't work your 40 hours. So how you don't get the paycheck? You got to do something in order to get something. You want the blessing, you got to earn it. The blessing doesn't come free. You see the way we have been conditioned to think and to believe? And a lot of us right now, that's our relationship with the Father. Okay. Let me ask you a question. If that's your mindset, my question to you is this: what does love have to do with it? Huh? What does love have to do with it? If everything in your life you are conditioned, you got to work hard. You got to do good. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but that's how you believe. Where is love in your life? Because you just base your whole foundation of love based off conditions. So when you go to the Father with that mindset, with that conditional mindset, you're trying to earn his approval. You're trying to earn the blessing. You're trying to earn the joy. You're trying to earn the love. You're trying to earn the peace. You're trying to do enough to qualify. You're trying to do enough for him to do for you. That is the way you think. If I just pray 40 days, I'm going to be blessed. If I just do this fast for 7 days, I truly believe the Father's going to bless me because I fast for 7 days. You're trying to earn something. Okay. What happens if your expectations are not met? You did it all. You prayed and you fast. You did it all. You know the entire recipe. But the Father does nothing for you. What happened to your faith? You begin to hurt yourself. You begin to look into yourself. Maybe I didn't fast enough. Maybe I should have been more honest when I did my taxes. You know what? At work, I was going into work and somebody asked me for $1 and I didn't give the person $1. I should have did. You see what happens? Because the Father did not open up the windows of heaven. Because the Father did not give us that blessing that is bigger than us. And we truly believe he would because we earned it. And now our expectation is not being met. Now we're sitting there beating ourselves up because our first teacher told us that things are based on certain conditions. Now you're frustrated. Now you're irritated. But what if the greatest obstacle between us receiving from the Father is not because of our sin? And that's the number one thing. We start to believe because we have sin in our life. And that's what the church tells us. The Father can't bless you when you got sin in your life. That's not true. That's not even biblical. You see, we've been conditioned to think we must do something in order to get something. Now, if you look at the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11, it changes the whole thing. Jeremiah 29:11 says this: "For I know the thoughts that I have towards you, says Yahuwah, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end." Notice what Jeremiah doesn't say. It doesn't say Yahuwah thoughts become good once you finally mature. It doesn't say his thoughts towards you and I become good when we do what's right. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say his thoughts become good after we stop struggling. It says his thoughts towards us are good. So why do we live in a state of thinking, in a state of mind where we believe he's disappointed with us? If you believe he's disappointed with you, that would let you know that you are operating in a conditional state of mind. You're operating in this mindset of karma. The Father does not operate in karma. So back to the question. What does love have to do with it? If everything you just said is based on conditions, where is the love? Let's look at David. David was a king, and David had everything. He had 1,000 concubines. He had the money, he had the fame, he had the crown, he had the throne, he had the temple, he had it all. You know what David desired? Bathsheba. See, Bathsheba was married to another man. So David desired Bathsheba. So being the king that he is, went to Bathsheba, who was married, and they committed adultery. David was ashamed. He was embarrassed. He didn't want to get caught. So he took Bathsheba husband, put Bathsheba husband into war. That Bathsheba husband would become injured in battle. So injured that Bathsheba husband did not make it home. They had to bury Bathsheba husband. Now that opens everything up. You see, now Bathsheba is a widow. The sin of King David is hidden. Nobody would know. They would never know. Now King David got fair rights to Bathsheba. You see, Bathsheba didn't know that King David did that. Bathsheba was vulnerable, crying. So Bathsheba married David. And they procreated as well. Now, notice what the Father says to David. This is powerful. In the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 12, verse 8, the Father came to David and said this: "Why did you do that, David? If everything that I gave you was too little, I would have moreover have given you more. So the Father told King David, everything that I gave you the throne. I made you king. You got all this money, the fame. I gave you all this, David. If that wasn't enough, you could have came to me, David, and asked, and I would have given you more. Where in that did the Father tell David, if you would have did just 20 more push-ups, I would have gave you more? Where in that did the Father tell David, if you would have just sacrificed more animals to me, I would have given you more? None of that is based on condition. All of that is based on love. So the question is, if you got a conditional mindset, what does love have to do with it? If everything that you believe and everything that you've been taught is based on condition, where is the love? You see, when the Father blesses us, he doesn't do it based on condition. So Yahusha was walking with his disciples. He was coming to the end of his journey where he was getting ready to lay down his life. And he said to the disciples, I have been with you this long and you didn't ask me anything. He says in the book of John, chapter 16, verse 24, he said, ask and you shall receive, that your joy may be full. He didn't tell none of the disciples they must run around the temple 5 times and I do it. He put no conditions upon their joy. He said, ask and you shall receive, that your joy may be full. Where is the conditions of that? Religion says, don't expect too much. Don't ask for too much. Be grateful. Yahuwah tolerates you. Yahuwah said, no. Just ask me. And you're going to get it. Because I want you to be happy. There is no conditions on that. The greatest enemy to our faith, to our thinking, is not temptation, is not sin, is unworthiness. Is when we don't feel worthy enough. The enemy use that as a weapon. Sometimes it's shame. You don't deserve forgiveness. Look at what you've done. You don't deserve peace. Look at what you've done. You don't deserve another chance. Look at what you've done. That's what the enemy makes us feel. The enemy comes in, including ourselves, and we beat up on ourselves and we look at everything that we did wrong. And because we're operating from a conditional mind that we've been conditioned by repetition, it's really easy for us to focus on what we are not doing compared to what we are doing. It's really easy to feel unworthy. Think about it. We are surrounded by unworthiness. Turn your television on. Get on TikTok. Get on YouTube. Look at the news. Search YouTube. What do you see? A lot of people talking about and acting how they're unworthy. And we feel bad because we can feel that pain. And we can say, you know what? I do the same thing. Our spouse and our family and our coworkers get mad at us and make us feel we're not worthy. We don't get that promotion at the job, make us feel we unworthy. We get rejected, make us feel we are unworthy. So when we feel unworthy, we think because we didn't do enough. You see the conditioning of the mind when you feel like you're not worthy. So when you are in that state of mind of feeling unworthy, My question to you is, where is the love? And what does love have to do with it? Here's the answer. Love has everything to do with it. Everything to do with it. We have to start by reconditioning our mind. How we do that? By replacing repetition with truth. You see, it's easy for us to fall into this pattern of feeling unworthiness. It's easy for us to fall into this pattern when we feel like I didn't do enough. It's easy for us to fall into this pattern when we feel, well, I did enough. Yeah. Give me my reward. It's really easy because that's how we've been conditioned for years. This is on a repeated cycle, habitual loop, the way we think. And then when we fail, we feel and believe we don't deserve it. You see, the Father doesn't operate that way. The Father delights into doing good for us. Are you a father? Are you a parent? Here's the challenge. When my child does something to upset me, I don't go out of my way to bless my child. I don't. I correct my child. You see, the Bible works different. The Bible says, where sin abound, the grace of the Father worketh more. Now, I'm not telling you to go out there and continue to sin. No. He's saying, the more you sin, the more I love you. The more my son act up, the more I discipline him. I don't love him, right? I'm a little bit irritated, a little bit frustrated with my kid. You see human love, the way we are conditioned versus a free mind. So the Father operates out of love. So what does love have to do with it? Everything. And when you understand that love has everything to do with it, you begin to operate in a free mind versus a conditional mind. And the best example I can give you of a free mind is the Apostle Paul. Paul was on his way to Dominicus to persecute more believers, right? Paul persecuted the believers. He consented to Stephen's death. He ripped families apart by throwing the believers into prison, both men and women. Paul thought he was doing the right thing. He had to put these people silent that preach Yahusha. There'd be no preaching of this man Yahusha. Not on Paul's watch. You be put in prison. You will be punished and maybe put to death. Under Paul's watch, there'd be no preaching of. Paul did not understand. He did not know that he was persecuting Yahuwah. So can you imagine the shame, the guilt of Paul? When Paul realized what he was doing, how do you come back from that? Paul had to sit there and say, wait a minute. I was so convinced. Here's this conditional mind. Paul said, in my conditional thinking, the way I was taught from my first teacher, my first conditional teacher, I was taught that those people had to be silent. I was taught that I was doing the right thing. I was taught that I was following the Torah. I was taught everything that I did to those believers. I thought I was doing what's right. You see, I was conditioned. If they don't be quiet, then they get punished. I was conditioned, Paul said. If they do be quiet, then I will leave them alone. They had to do something bad in order for me to do something to them. And they had to do something good in order for me to do good to them. Paul said, that's what I was taught. And this whole time I was wrong. I didn't know it. And you know the state of mind Paul was in right here. It says here, 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 15. Paul said he's the chief of all sinners. The chief. He said, what I done, ain't no coming back from that. There can't be no coming back from that. It's impossible. I'm the chief of sinners. I'm not worthy to be even called an apostle. Look at what I've done. Do you see the mind frame of Paul? Feeling unworthy. And that's where a lot of you and I are, feeling unworthy. Now, Paul said in the book of 1 Corinthians 15:10, he began to understand something. He began to see, wait a minute. I'm not worthy of any of this, but the Father is using me, just like he's using Peter and John and James and Mark and Luke. Paul said, but by the grace of Yahuwah, I am what I am. You see, what does love have to do with it? Paul, everything. Paul said, I'm beginning to see things differently. Yes, I did a lot of bad things. Yes, I'm the chief of all sinners. That's how I see myself. But because of his love, Paul said, I am what I am because of his grace. It's not based on my performance. It's not based on my self-righteousness. It's not based on my accomplishments. Paul said, things are happening in my life because of his love. I'm worthy of death for what I did, but because he loves me. So Paul began to see a different side, a different mindset, a different reconditioning of the mind, the free mind that says, what does love have to do with it? Everything. But along this journey, Paul was taught a very valuable lesson. You see, Paul had to understand the true meaning of what does love have to do with it. Paul had to really reconditioning his mind completely. You see, Paul was put into prison. And when Paul was put into prison, he went from high to low in one moment. And when he got put into that prison, the first teacher, the conditional teacher, came back and said, Paul, see, it's because you sinned, you're back, you're in prison. Yeah. It's because you wasn't doing enough out there. You're back in prison. You see, you wasn't praying enough. You're back in prison, Paul. That's why you in prison, because of the things you done, Paul. Shame on you. You did bad, you get bad. It's karma, Paul. It's karma. Paul said, my ministry is over. I'm in prison. How effective can I be in here, in prison? How effective can I need to be out there preaching the gospel, laying hands on the sick? Paul said, it's over. The first teacher came back. The conditional teacher came back and wanted to recondition the way Paul believes, the way Paul think. So Paul had a revelation why he was there. Paul said, wait a minute. The prisoners are coming to me and they want to be born again. You want to hear about Yahusha? Yeah. Paul, tell us more. Paul said, wait a minute. I'm writing letters and the gospel is being preached more in my bonds. My fellow prisoners are now saved. I'm writing letters to the Gentiles and they are coming to the knowledge of the truth in my bonds. So Paul began to see that first teacher, the conditional one, the one that said it's karma, Paul said, wait a minute. He said in Romans chapter 8, verse 38, 39, Paul said, for I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of Yahuwah. That was based on experience. When Paul reconditioned his mind and he understood everything that I get, everything that I receive, everything that I do is not based on me. It's not based on my unworthiness. It's not based on how much I pray or fast or pay tithes or go to church or worship. It's not based on any of that. Everything that I do, everything that I get, everything that I receive is based on his love. That's the second teacher. That's the mind of faith that tells you everything has to do with love. Paul had an experience that nothing can separate him from this love. Now, here's the mind test. What mind are you operating on? Let us go back to the prayer. Father, open up the windows of heaven and pour me out a blessing I have no room to receive in this life. In the name of Yahusha, I believe. If you prayed that prayer and you feel he ain't going to do it because, or if you prayed that prayer and you say, I believe it, he would do it because, this would tell you where your mind stands. If you say he would do it because I pay my tithes and I go to church and I worship and I fast and I'm nice and I read the Bible, that's a conditional mind. That's your first teacher. He's not going to do it. He's not. But if you say, I'm unworthy to get a blessing, I'm the chief of all sinners, I haven't done nothing right to receive it, but I believe the Father would bless me with such a blessing because he loved me, because his thoughts towards me is good and not evil. And he want me to be successful. He said, ask that my joy may be full. He told David, if what I gave you wasn't enough, there's ask for more and I will give you more. None of that. His promises is based on conditions. His promises is based on love. So what does love have to do with it? Everything. Everything. Because love changes how you see Yahuwah. Love changes how you see yourself, how you pray, and how you expect from Yahuwah. Love changes what you believe is possible. Maybe the greatest act of faith isn't trying harder to earn what he already given you. Maybe it's questioning the conditioning that you were taught from your first teacher. Knowledge is power. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road. How many of you people eat catfish? Yep, catfish. No wrong or right answer. Not condemning anyone, just a question. How many of you eat catfish? Okay, I did too growing up, right? Something happened to my mind. I used to eat catfish and then my mind changed. It got reconditioned. When I learned what is the role of a catfish in the sea, in the lake, and when I discovered the role, the purpose, the task of a catfish, I didn't like it anymore. I didn't want that in my body anymore. So it reconditioned how I look at catfish. So now I no longer eat catfish. And the same thing with pork. And I'm not condemning anyone that do eat catfish, that do eat pork. I'm talking about the reconditioning of our mind. You see, when we don't know then how can we do? And this is the biggest struggle that a lot of us have right now. You see, a lot of us is struggling with drugs and alcohol and lust. A lot of us going through a hard time with breakups and marriages and jobs and promotions. And we're sitting there and we're blaming ourselves, thinking that it's because of sin. Possibly, right? It could be because of your disobedience. Absolutely. Or it could be because you don't know better. It could be because you are conditioned to think you did something, so you don't get it. And because you did something and you still didn't get it, and now your expectations is not there. The Father doesn't work that way. The Father is not your employee. He's your Father. You can't come to him with these conditions and say, look at what I did, now bless me. It doesn't work that way. So let me help you understand something about knowledge and reconditioning. If you are going through a breakup, and maybe it's your fault, maybe it's not your fault, and right now you're too busy reacting because you're looking at yourself. I should have done this. I should have did this more. I shoulda. And you in this shoulda state of mind where you're reacting and you're not seeing clearly because you're conditioned to react. But the free mind would sit back and say, Father, I don't know what just happened. And I don't know if it's my fault, why this woman or why this man ain't in my life. But can you help me to see things that I'm not seeing right? Now that's the power. The Bible says the people of Yahuwah perish because of their lack of knowledge. You see, when you start to understand where you at and why you there, it's like me with that catfish. It's like me with pork. I used to eat it. But when I came to knowledge, my mind was shifted. So when you're in that relationship, you in that struggle with drugs, whatever you're dealing with, stop trying to fight it in your own understanding, because your own understanding is based on condition and not love. So allow the Father to love you through it. Allow the Father to show you why you're struggling with what you're struggling with. It's 3 things you need in this life, and that's it. To acknowledge you're wrong. Father, I was wrong for that. I acknowledge. To learn from it. And how do you learn from it? Easy. You got to figure out how you got there. What caused you to be there? And how can you not fall back into that? And once you understand that, that's the power that you won't go back to it. I struggle with a lot of things in life. And I continue to struggle with. I struggle with dysfunctional relationships where I was devalued, where I was discarded, where I was belittled. And I couldn't understand why, because I thought I was a nice guy. I thought if I do good and I'm faithful and I call them and they should like me, right? You see the conditioning of my mind? And I kept getting the same results. So when I sat with the pain, I said, Father, love me through this and show me what I'm not seeing. And that's when the Father showed me. He said, your problem is you putting yourself in positions where people don't value you the way you value you. And you trying to sit there and try to get their approval. You try to get them to see you the way you see yourself. And you're trying to sell yourself to them. You're trying to prove yourself to them. But their mind is already made up how they see you and how they perceive you. And you're not going to change it. So the only thing you will get is pain. So I was conditioned to think if I do good and I act good and I call them and I be the person they looking for, they should love me. Well, that makes sense based on condition. But what does love got to do with it? Everything. Because I love myself enough and I know my value and I know my worth and I know how I want to be treated. And if you choose not to treat me that way, then fine. I can't force you, but I can walk away. You see how I conditioned my mind? before I would stay in that situation and shrink myself, waiting for their approval, waiting for their validation of me, because I lack knowledge. I was conditioned by repetition to think that way. So, what mind are you operating from? Your first teacher, the conditional one that taught you karma, do good. Now, I'm not saying none of that has no truth to it. It does. But my question is, what does love have to do with it? If you are basing your whole foundation of life on conditions, then you are basing love, receiving, love, getting based on conditions. And if your conditions is not met, then your love is over. Then your love is, see, the way you think. So let us recondition our mind. Let us come to the knowledge of truth and let truth become our condition based on repetition to come into this free mind and understand that everything that we get from the Father, we get freely and we get out of love. So let me leave you with this challenge. If you are still yet feeling unworthy, and if you are yet beating yourself up and you feel like the Father has abandoned you, you feel like the Father just won't do it for you. Okay. If you feel like you don't deserve anything from the Father because you feel unworthy, okay, here's the challenge. Ask yourself this. What can you do differently to deserve his love? You see? You're basing his love for you off conditions. You feel like you don't deserve his love because you are doing this. So if you change what you're doing, do you think you deserve his love now? That's conditional love. The Father gives his love freely to us without conditions. So with all you're getting, definitely get understanding. And if you haven't already, definitely go out to Amazon, Kindle, get a copy of the books, Eternal Salvation, The Hell-Proof Doctrine, Who Do You Say I Am? The study guides are also there. I do leave a link in the description at the bottom and also in the comments, along with my email. So here we keep Yahusha as king. Until next time.